Please welcome back the 2017 Visioneers team, Will of the People, Evolving Our Democracy, led by bold innovator Joe Trippi.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's been a great bunch of days. A little bit tiring, but fascinating, and learned a lot. We've got a lot of input from all of you. From our opening speech to the deeper dives in our experiential room, we've taken you on a journey through time to show you that our democracy and its voting system is not moving forwards but backwards, reverting to the same voting system that the ancient Romans used in 139 BC paper. From the infiltration of voting systems in the 2016 US election to the Dutch moving to paper ballots and hand counting, the most fundamental part of democracy, voting, one person, one vote, is under threat all across the world more than ever. The consequences of this attack are dire. In Kenya, allegations of vote tampering in 2007 sparked riots that killed 1,400 people. And in the September, fears of a repeat of 2007 caused the Supreme Court of Kenya to nullify the results of the most recent presidential election amidst hacking that occurred there as well. And of all the ways that technology has made the world better, the one area that has failed miserably is democracy. As XPRIZE seeks to build a bridge to abundance for all, and as technology creates more and more of that abundance, it also is creating disruption and anxiety. But it's democracy and trust in each other that is the bridge in a civil society that allows all of us to reach true abundance for all. And when trust erodes, so too does the bridge of democracy and civil society. We are living in an era of political distrust. We have outdated and insecure voting systems. There's a lack of popular trust in voting, a lack of trust in media and the information ecosystem. Yet, we've provided you with an achievable competition structure and a clear roadmap to being a part of the solution that will scale impact. To recap, our proposal includes a voting prize to address problems with election technology, a proposed AI fake news prize to address the spread of misinformation, and as part of a broader strategic roadmap to create radical and transformative impact on democracy and the will of the people everywhere. This is a global problem, so our prize structure will attract an incredibly diverse portfolio of brilliant minds and drive impact independent of a winner across Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Europe. And what we're doing here is we're going to have 4 separate competitions, one for Africa, one for Europe, one for Asia, one for the Americas, to create a diverse set of ideas and solutions, some that will fit those continents, may serve democracy there, some that may emerge as a global solution to the problem. For the last 2 very important criteria that we want to go over with you tonight, we'd like to show you a few of our supporters, our ecosystem and advocacy group, which include the former Prime Minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga, the Prime Minister of Greece, Alexis Tsipras, who urges from the cradle of democracy that XPRIZE make the will of the people, evolving our democracy, the next prize. Ayad Jamaluddin, former Iraqi member of parliament, and former President Barack Obama's campaign chairman, David Axelrod, who now heads the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics. And I want to say, in the week right before the summit, all 5 chiefs of staff to the 5 former living presidents have joined the call in support of this prize. Now, we did hear criticism from mentors that thought maybe this prize was too U.S.-centric. And I would point out, though, that as we moved forward with this prize, the people who were calling and supporting us were prime ministers and presidents in the Gambia, in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Iraq, in Greece. They're not supporting this because they think this is a U.S. solution. They're supporting this because they know this problem is everywhere, and it needs help everywhere. And then we went out and tried to get citizens to tell us what they thought. A number of citizens whose voices we heard through Countable, a civic technology company that streamlines the process of contacting lawmakers and having voters and citizens actually have a conversation with each other to trust each other and listen to each other again. Countable launched an online platform for Americans to submit videos lasting a few seconds talking about why democracy should be the next XPRIZE. What was fascinating about it was not just how many Americans actually sent in videos to us, but how many, the youth president of the Gambian Youth Parliament sent the video in on Countable. But by the way, most of the people in Africa that were trying to do this on Countable didn't have the bandwidth to send us the videos, but they were doing everything they could to send in their support. And lastly, for criteria 10, and this is fundamental, as the person who ran Howard Dean's campaign for the presidency and saw 650,000 Americans contribute over $50 million to his campaign, it's clear to our team that there's no better way to crowdfund this crowdsourced initiative to create a solution. And so we envision finding 4 or 5 contributors who will fund $1 million each, only on condition that the citizens of the world match it, so that it's XPRIZE's brand and those individuals, and then thousands and thousands of citizens around the world who want to build this system, want to crowdsource, and when we have our solution, we'll be there to rally around making governments look at it. Throughout the last 4 days of this summit, and in our experiential room, there was one word that defined what this prize was really about, and it's trust. But it's not about just trust in the solution. It's about building trust in each other. And that, in the end, is one of the things that we want to achieve in our prize. If people do not trust that their vote and voice counts, it's not just democracy, but civil society itself that is weakened. An XPRIZE that helps build trust, secures the will of the people, deserves your passionate agreement. And we just want to share a few others in this room who've been here at the summit and their reasons for passionately agreeing when they cast their vote.
Here's an irrefutable fact. All over the world, elections officials and volunteers who administer our elections, and all elections in all democracies, are outmanned, outgunned, outwitted by a formidable adversary who has a significant jump on us and is hell-bent on imploding democracies anywhere their interests are at stake. If we wait to start a global movement to catalyze the change that we need to improve the integrity and ensure one voice and one vote, we are going to have to face this reality for at least another decade, and the results that we've seen in places like Kenya could land on our own soil.
I went back to Pittsburgh where I grew up, and we already see individuals across our country not believing the outcomes of elections. Imagine if we go forward in the future and there are candidates and sitting presidents who don't believe the outcomes of elections and they choose to act on it. Where will we be as a society?
There are many Africans and young people around the world who feel like they don't have a voice, and they are taking to the streets. Improving the will of the people will give us that voice.
My name is Mattias Sundin. You can call me Matt. I'm a member of parliament from Sweden, and this is not just a US problem. This is all over Europe. You saw recently what happened in Spain with violence breaking out during their election. And we must realize there are forces out there actively working to undermine our democracies, and we must stop them now.
So, thanks. So you see, this is not just about solving a problem. It's about launching this competition as a catalyst to spur a global conversation and movement to build trust in our democracies worldwide. And it's not just about building trust in our democracies, but again, having a conversation, launching a movement that is about trusting each other and listening to each other in a common cause of strengthening the fundamental foundation of democracy. And we have a moral obligation to do both, to solve the problem and be the catalyst that draws global attention and citizens around the globe to this cause. We've failed each other. The political experts and the technology experts, we were all too busy doing other things and not noticing how bad the problem was as it kept eroding around us. There are those in this room who say solving this is so easy. But if it's so easy, shame on us for not having fixed it yet. And if it takes an XPRIZE competition to focus that easy fix and get it done, hey, you know, I'm standing here, I've been this for 40 years, nothing else has worked, so let's get the easy prize launched, right? And if it's as hard as the experts say it is, then XPRIZE is the only answer. Let me explain. The one thing I think our team somehow failed to do was the two criteria that aren't in our criteria. The absolute direness of the threat, and it is here. And the other thing that we totally failed somehow to convey is the absolute urgency with which it must be met, and how an XPRIZE competition is the only thing that can meet that urgency. So let me explain that. There is no force on earth that can meet the challenge in time for the 2018 elections here or the 2019 elections in South Africa, as just two examples around the world. The experts tell us that it will take $100 million in 10 years to develop a solution on the pace that we're currently on, that government and the vendors that control all this stuff are currently on. As someone who's been working in democracy for 40 years, I can tell you we don't have 10 years, and that time's running out. I signed on as a bold innovator on this team for one reason, and only one. I believe to my core that there is only one force on earth that can meet the challenge with the speed and innovation our world needs, and that's an XPRIZE competition. How is it? How is it that with all our technology, all our science, all our innovation, we can envision colonizing Mars, but here on Earth, the best technology to cast a vote is a paper ballot in 2017. In Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and the Americas, people's futures depend on having a voice. What can be more exciting than working together to make their voice count? Stand up if you want your vote to count. Make it the will of the people in evolving democracy, the next XPRIZE. Thank you very much.